Today I'm going to be changing the coolant out on my 1999 Ford Taurus. I'm going to be flushing the system, which is usually how people refer to it. Now there's really only two reasons you'd want to do this. One, you tested your coolant and it was corrosive, too old, so that's not good for your system. Or two, it's just routine maintenance, which is going to vary some on each car. But once you go past a certain amount of miles, it's recommended that you do this, just because your coolant could be corrosive. Now some materials you're going to need new coolant, of course. You're flushing out the old, putting in new. My car needs about 10 quarts. It's going to vary based on your car, but you're going to need coolant of some sort. You're going to need a pan to catch the old stuff in, and then a funnel just so you can put it back into your containers that your new coolant were in. That helps a lot too. An adjustable wrench, because we're going to have to get a splash guard out. And then either a hose or just jugs of tap water so we can actually flush out the remaining coolant. So first thing you need to do though is let your car cool down just for safety reasons. And then we're going to have to get a splash guard off so we can actually get to the drain plug on our radiator. If you're getting onto a rough surface like concrete or even in your own garage, you probably don't want to get too dirty or tear up your knees too bad, so a towel would be nice. Okay, so eventually we're going to be opening the drain plug on the radiator. And if you're like me and you're kind of new to cars, you might be wondering what exactly is a radiator, where is it? Radiator is a crucial part of your cooling system. You'll recognize it by just a bunch of thin sheets of metal. That kind of helps spread out your coolant and cool it down. Now, on the corner of it, there's going to be a drain plug. It's kind of hard to see at this angle. It's that white piece right there. A flashlight's a good tool too, although if it's the middle of the day, you're not going to need one. Some people call it a petcock. That's just kind of a nickname for it. I'm not sure where that came from, but drain plug is the more official name for it. But to get to it, we have to unscrew this guard on the bottom of the car. It's a splash guard. So that's what you need your adjustable wrench for. And then you may also need some screwdrivers, Phillips head screwdrivers. Once we get this off, we can get to our drain plug that opens up our radiator. Okay, so that's the splash guard on the bottom of the car. That's what's between you and your radiator drain plug, or petcock as some people call it. To get this off, you're going to have to undo several screws, hex head screws. I believe there's about 6 to 8 of these, tiny ones. These were like smaller than 7 millimeters even. And then I had 3 of these bigger ones. These are 5/16. I used a socket wrench for these, but an adjustable wrench will work too. And if you don't drive a 99 Taurus or that type of model, you may not even have a splash guard blocking your radiator drain plug, but chances are you might as well. So just keep that in mind. You're probably going to need to remove something to get to it underneath the car. Now mine is in the front left, is what it's called, front left of the car. But you'll notice, looking at it right now, it looks like it's on the right side. That's because when talking about cars, everything is from the reference of the driver. So if you're sitting there, this would be the left side. So now that this is off, see that? That's the petcock. That is the radiator drain plug. And as you can see, that's the radiator. Those are parts of the radiator. And that's the drain plug. But now we need to open our reservoir cap, our overflow cap on the radiator itself, or on the coolant system itself. So here's the pressured cap to our radiator overflow section, the reservoir tank. Do not open this if you have just ran your car. If it's hot, your coolant's under pressure. That's going to steam out and it's going to hurt you. So make sure your engine has had time to cool before you open this up. That should twist off. And this is where you'll pour your coolant in once we flush the old stuff out. Now we need to make sure we get a pan, a lot of people call them oil pans, in our case it's a coolant pan I guess, underneath your drain plug to your radiator, because a lot's going to come out. Now I'm going to manually unscrew this radiator drain plug. Some people can do it with their hands. A lot of people said if it's too tight for your hands, you can use pliers. Or in my case, I'm going to use an adjustable wrench. There we go. Oh, the coolant's warm. Make sure you have rags available too. A lot of it's going to come shooting out. There's like a separate black kind of overflow thing as well. Trying to get it off completely. It's hotter than I thought it'd be. Even though my car's been resting for 45 minutes, it's still pretty warm. The drain plug, or drain fitting, as it is also officially known, doesn't ever completely come out. It just opens up. Once you kind of get down to a lower trickle, we can start checking our hoses and flushing the system. So you're going to need a hose or a gallon of water that you can keep refilling. My car holds about 10 quarts of coolant. This container is precariously full, so I'm going to need one bigger than this. So I swapped it out with a sled. So you might say, why do you need one bigger than this if it's down to a trickle now? Well, you have to start flushing water through, or even a cleaner if you're going to be thorough about it. You're going to need one bigger than this. Unless your car only takes 4 or 5 quarts. Then this size would be good. But now that it's down to a trickle, we're going to start running water through. While your coolant is draining, my full service manual recommended to check your hoses. So I guess just look at them, squeeze them, make sure they're still firm. Check for things like leaks, anything weird, air. You might hear air whistling through them. Check your clamps, all the things like that. It's just a good time to look at everything. Get familiar with your engine. I don't know mine super well, a little bit, because I took one auto repair class. Get familiar with your car. If you plan on doing a lot of your own repairs, which you should, it's smart, saves a lot of money, you're going to want to know where all the pipes lead and everything. It's good to know what things are. So now to flush our radiator, which is usually what the service is called at car repair shops and places, we're going to pour some water into our reservoir. This is a good time for your funnel. Now we can be more sloppy with our pouring. This is going to flush out excess coolant, dirt, things like that. You're going to see it coming out the bottom as well. You need to keep flushing until it's clear coming out. Clear water. It is nice and clear now. That means our coolant has been thoroughly flushed out. Let it completely run through before you tighten it up. Now that it's done dripping, tighten it back up. And I may even twist it once or twice with my adjustable wrench, just because it was pretty tight to begin with. There we go, I'd say that's tight enough now. Now that the drain cap on the radiator has been tightened, we need to fill it back up. So now I'm going to begin pulling in my new coolant. And I'm just going to pour in a little bit. and then come and check to make sure it's not leaking through my radiator drain plug. And I think it's good, so I'm going to keep pouring. I put about 8 quarts in mine. I think total it takes 10, and then let it run for a little bit to filter out some of the air. So you're going to turn your car on, let it run, and feel until your upper radiator hose becomes really warm. So make sure your reservoir is open, and then we're going to run the car for a little bit. So our engine is running now. Be careful to not touch any moving parts. What's happening now is the excess air is coming out. Feel for the top radiator hose to get warm. I let my engine run for a few minutes to kind of get some of the air out of the coolant system. Now I'm going to let it cool for a little bit and then squeeze the upper hose to get out air bubbles. One thing I noticed that is pretty cool, and this can kind of help you make sure you know you have your right radiator hoses. If you squeeze it to expel some of the air, you'll hear the coolant swishing around, and that kind of helps get some of the air out. So you're putting pressure on the system, and you're hearing the direct effect. Put your cap back on, and you're done. So I'm going to put my pressure relief cap back on. And I'm going to start my engine back up and check for leaks. Okay, so once we put our cap back on and it seems to be working good, now we need to get our splash guard back on. And then last but not least, we need to take care of our old coolant because it's completely illegal to just dump it down a drain. This is hazardous stuff. Pour it back into your new containers that are empty now and find someone to dispose of it. A lot of auto hardware stores will do it for you. Just take it to them and you're good to go.